Okay, oh, hey guys, welcome back. Hello, my friends. I'm very, very sorry. I got sick like the last 3 days, um, and this is the only day that I feel kind of better, but still, I'm still sick, and I hope you guys would understand. And I'm very, very sorry for no videos for like the past 5 days because of my illness. I'm very, very sorry. But today we're coming back to World War One, and this is the war aims of each nation in World War One, Part One. And I forgot whose channel was this again. I'm very, very sorry. I don't have any time to read the name of the channel, but the channel link is going to be in the description down below. This video will be in the description down below, and the last video will be in the description down below. Check it out. Let's get right to it. But actually, we just gained 378 subscribers. 378. That is surprising. Like, thank you for all of you that subscribed and liked my videos. I appreciate all of you. There we go. I tried downloading what you call that again? I forgot what you call that. But I tried downloading another recording software, but it failed on me. My videos were lagging, so yeah. This is the war aims of each nation in World War One, Part One. Let's go.
In 1918, the First World War came to a close with a decisive victory for the Entente. The next year, a series of settlements were forced upon the defeated Central Powers, the most famous of which was the Treaty of Versailles, which saw Germany stripped of these lands. 18 months earlier, Germany had imposed its own peace treaty on Russia, in which they took control of a vast swathe of Eastern Europe. Yet these treaties were products of the circumstances in which victory was achieved. For the Entente, it was after the war had become about self-determination and was increasingly dominated by the United States. For Germany, it was only after Russia had begun to disintegrate as a coherent state. Neither any Entente or Central Power got to ever truly fulfill their desired peace plans or their vision of a post-war world. This video then will look at the war aims of each of the 5 great powers that entered the First World War in 1914. How they changed, and how they imagined a post-war world. The first power we'll look at is Germany, the principal combatant for the Central Powers and arguably the nation with the most radical vision for a restructuring of the European order. German aims fluctuated throughout the conflict, often depending on who dominated the government at the time.
Yeah, because even though in year 1917, the year 1917, 1916, I forgot what year it was. Germany wanted peace early in the war, like around 1917, but the problem was they lost control of the military. Now you have seen like the military dictatorship that was being led by General Hindenburg, right? General Hindenburg.
Nevertheless, there were serious proposals on what concessions Germany desired from the war. The first of these is the most infamous, the September Programme, envisaged in 1914 when it seemed like
it's been a while since I've reacted to some World War One videos and learned about World War One. Comment down below if that guy in the photo was Hindenburg. I forgot the rest of his name, but the only name that I knew was Hindenburg. But comment down below. It's been a while. I'm very, very sorry.
Germany was on course for a quick victory. This was about as Carthaginian a peace as was imagined by any nation in the war. In the west, Germany was to annex resource-rich areas in France such as the Brie region. Belgium was to be turned into a puppet state in control of the Channel ports so as to threaten Britain. Perhaps the most striking thing about this proposal is the remarkable similarity in the east to the land Germany actually took in the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk almost 4 years later. It arguably reflects the fact that for most German diplomats, the main war was in the east, where the greatest spoils were to be had for Germany in terms of resource-rich land. though Germany's war aims in Russia did always remain far more fluid than its demands in the West. Evidently, the September programme was never implemented, at least in the West, as Germany's armies were defeated at the Battle of the Marne. The subsequent descent into trench warfare meant German diplomats saw a favourable negotiated peace rather than total victory as the main aim of Germany's war effort instead. For this, we'll take the often vague suggestions of the German Chancellor until 1917, Bethmann Hollweg. Bethmann was no pacifist, but he was one of the more lucid German policymakers and understood Germany would have to compromise in some aspects. He never offered a set series of proposals, but regarding Western Europe, he envisaged small border corrections with the annexation of Brie and Luxembourg. The terms discussed with the Belgian king in a proposed separate peace in 1916 included the demilitarisation of Belgium and economic dependence on Germany. In the East, his dreams weren't as expansionist as outlined in the September programme, but still aimed for Poland and Lithuania to be declared as independent states. Even so, he did at various points ponder a separate lenient peace with Russia so as to focus on the West. Bethmann was ultimately ousted in 1917, so never got to seriously attempt a negotiated settlement. Next, there was a plan advocated by German Admiral Alfred von Tirpitz, who had been instrumental in the creation of Germany's high seas fleet prior to the war. Tirpitz never really got near the levers of diplomatic power, but his plans are interesting for how completely dull.
Can we point out his beard is very unique, you know, like to horn-like beard. It looks fantastic. I'm very, very sorry. Anyway,
delusional they are. Tirpitz saw the war as a struggle for world rather than European supremacy. Thus, he believed the British Empire and its command of the sea lanes was the main enemy. To defeat Britain, he advocated signing a white peace with Russia in the east and focusing on the western front, annexing the Channel ports to prepare for the next war, which would be a final clash against Britain. Finally, there was the plan of the Third OHL, dominated by Hindenburg and Ludendorff, in case of victory in 1918. This was after peace had been made with Russia in the March of that year. Ludendorff saw Russia's defeat only as a preliminary to total victory in the West. In reality though, there were never any concrete proposals, but we can assume it would have been similar to the September programme. Almost all of these plans came attached with the proposal for a German-led economic union with the rest of Europe that would provide a market for German goods and exclude Britain, generally known as Middle Europa, based on a book written in 1915. Though it wasn't actually an authoritative policy statement. The common theme here is that this was not a war of survival for Germany. Even supposed compromise pieces aimed to ensure Germany was supreme on the continent for the foreseeable future. In the end, this refusal to compromise meant Germany ended up being completely defeated in 1918, with even Brest-Litovsk being annulled by the Entente. Of all the combatants...
Okay, first, Okay, I'm very, very sorry. Can we talk about September 13th? Was it really called September 13th plan? I forgot. September 13th. Was it really called 17th? I forgot. Oh my god, I have short-term memory loss. What the hell? Anyway, the September 13th plan looks promising actually. If Germany won, they'll probably take some parts. Seriously? Again? Okay guys, there's a problem every time I react to videos. Thank goodness we finished Germany, and thank goodness the electricity came back. Yeah, that looks promising, and if Germany won, for me, if Germany won that war, World War One, they would have probably went for the September 13th for the plan, to take some what you call that, to take Belgium and to take some lands in modern day Ukraine, Belarus, Estonia, Latvia, and yeah, that's it. And that does make sense. Okay, that would make sense. If Germany won that World War One, that they would have went for that one, but they lost, and yeah.
The First World War, France had the single clearest war aim, the reclamation of Alsace-Lorraine. The territory had been amputated from France in 1871 after the Franco-Prussian War, and the desire to reclaim the territory had stimulated revanchist sentiment in the country since. The territory was so vital that despite the fact German armies sat deep inside French territory for most of the war, French diplomats almost totally refused to contemplate any negotiated peace that didn't include Alsace. France was also motivated more than any nation by hostility to Germany, which had replaced France as Europe's preeminent power in 1871. Consequently, French war aims were also shaped.
Oh yeah, forgot. The Franco-Prussian War was the war before World War One. Okay, I still hadn't made a video about the Franco-Prussian War, and I want to learn more about that one. I'm pretty interested on learning about a war between like France and Prussia/Germany. I'll look into it if I'll look to it in the future. I'll try, but hey, that would be maybe next month or maybe next year. I don't know, but hey, good video idea or reaction video.
Around finding ways of limiting German power. These ranged from the most hardline stances that Germany should be balkanised to the comparatively moderate position that the imbalance between Germany and France should be redressed. One way this could be done was by annexing more German territory. The French for much of the war maintained designs on the coal-heavy region of the Saarland, which would be annexed to increase France's industrial strength. More extensive plans advocated the setting up of a Rump-Rhinish state to provide security for France, whilst in the early days of the war the French military even considered recreating France's natural borders by annexing all of the left bank of the Rhine.
Okay.
There are other more minor colonial claims, particularly affecting Syria, but ultimately French war aims were almost solely focused on weakening Germany and strengthening France in the European balance of power. In the end, France would reclaim Alsace-Lorraine, but would have to settle for a demilitarised Rhineland and the separation of the Saarland as a League of Nations mandate, eventually to be annexed back into Germany.
Now Russia.
Imagine if...
Now Russia. That's pretty interesting. Let's see what Russia would want in this war.
A nation that was in an almost perpetual crisis of self-confidence over what the war was actually being fought for. The initial casus belli had been defending a Slavic brother state, Serbia, from annihilation, but as the body count began stacking up, this wasn't a particularly sellable point to the Russian public. When Russia went to war, the Supreme Commander Nikolai Nikolaevich published a manifesto promising the creation of a Polish state within the Russian Empire. The aim was to do this by joining Congress Poland with German and Austrian Polish regions. This would serve the more general Russian aim of weakening Germany and destroying Austria as a competitor in the Balkans. The Russians never went as far though as to specify the complete destruction of the Habsburgs, for fear that the collapse of this multi-ethnic empire would encourage the Russians' own minorities to rebel. Despite these territorial aims, there was a degree of Germanophilia running throughout the Russian elite, who saw the conflict less as a clash between nation-states and more as a clash between the liberal West and the autocratic East that Russia just happened to be on the wrong side of. This view was silenced by the entry of Russia's perennial foe, the Ottoman Empire, into the war.
Like the Ottoman Empires, the Ottoman Empires and Russia's rivalry is still very hot. It's still very hot. I actually watched a video about this, and the Russian czars made this promise to take over Anatolia, right? To take over Anatolia. Was this part, was Constantinople, and they made themselves the protectorate of the Christians in the Ottoman Empire. I actually saw that in a video made by Kraut. So if you want me to react to that, it's a long video, but we'll see if I have time to start that series off. Maybe I'll try it maybe tomorrow or maybe next week.
The foreign minister Sazonov was able to extract a commitment from Britain and France that Russia would take Constantinople at the end of the war, formerly the capital of the Eastern Roman Empire, which Russia claimed to be a successor of. The city would also finally give Russia access to the Mediterranean. After the war became an almost holy endeavour against the Muslim Turks, a separate peace with Germany was never seriously discussed, and Russia remained committed to the war effort until the Bolshevik Revolution. The overthrow of the Tsar in the February Revolution did change Russia's war aims, but I won't go into them here. In sum then, Russian war aims looked something like this. In the end, the October Revolution meant Russia instead signed a humiliating peace treaty, only undone because of an Entente victory in the West. Austria's war aims were what had brought about
this one is pretty interesting. Let's see what Austria-Hungary's war aims was. For me, they might have wanted to annex all of Serbia and to annex some Montenegro and some Romania so that they can have access in this, but I don't think they want that. We'll see. I don't know, because if they're gonna annex these two more countries, they're gonna add more cultures and more religions, and that smells like a revolution or maybe a civil war that would probably happen maybe in a few years. But for being honest with you, yeah, Austria-Hungary, it's not really a good ally in this war. It's not really a good one.
Conflict in 1914. For a decade, this multi-ethnic empire was plagued by instability in its Slavic areas because of a resurgent Serbian state that aimed to unify with these regions. Consequently, when the Archduke Franz Ferdinand was assassinated by the Serbian Black Hand, the Austrians saw it as an opportunity to crush the Serbs once and for all. Somewhat bizarrely, the Austrians didn't actually intend to annex any of Serbia. They had too many Slavs already, and any more would upset the fragile balance within the Habsburg Empire.
Okay, so I'll change my mind. Okay, that does make sense, because it's multi-ethnic. So if you're gonna add more and you're gonna, that would remove the balance of this country, because it's pretty fragile.
Instead, they intended to make sure Serbia would never again challenge Austria, doing this by partitioning it between Bulgaria and Greece and then turning the rump state into a vassal. Montenegro would have its coastline taken to truly box the Serbs in. In 1915, Italy joined the war against Austria, but the Habsburg lines held thanks to the natural fortifications on the border, and thus only minor territorial adjustments were considered in the event of Italy's defeat. In 1916, Romania joined the war, but was defeated. In 1918, they signed a peace agreement that shows us Austrian aims, which mainly consisted of turning it into an economic puppet of the Central Powers.
It's like a puppet state.
Russia was Austria's main enemy.
An economic puppet. So, okay, they're gonna be dependent on the Austria-Hungary.
Throughout the conflict, but proposals in case of victory were always vague. There was the so-called Austro-Polish solution to combine Congress Poland with Austrian Poland into an autonomous kingdom under Habsburg rule, but this clashed with Germany's aim for a Polish puppet state. Instead, it was generally thought Austria would share in the economic spoils of the rump states Germany carved out of Russia, something they largely achieved in the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk. Ultimately, Austria's war aims consisted little in the way of major territorial changes, but simply what Austrian diplomats thought would secure the empire's future, something that was looking increasingly bleak as the war continued. Britain
the famous British Isles. Let's see what their war aims are.
Territorial ambitions, and this remained consistent, at least in Europe. Her main casus belli had been Germany's invasion of Belgium, and Belgian independence remained Britain's main demand throughout the war.
Yeah, because the British guarantees guarantees Belgium's neutrality.
For Britain, the destruction of the German High Seas Fleet, which challenged the Royal Navy's dominance in the North Sea, was also a crucial aim. Those were by and large what Britain focused on, but a secondary aim was maintaining a balance of power in Europe. In practice, this meant restricting German expansion. To do this, they tied other allies' war aims, such as the French demands for Alsace-Lorraine, to their own, seeing it as a way to weaken Germany. This is not to say Britain had no territorial aims of its own. Once the Ottomans entered the war, the Middle East in particular became an area of interest to Britain. This was carved up in a treaty known as Sykes-Picot Day, which gave Britain influence over these regions. Despite this, of all belligerents, British war aims were the most flexible, as would be seen at Versailles when Britain attempted to facilitate an awkward compromise between the idealistic Americans and revanchist French. In the end, they were mostly achieved. Belgium was liberated, the High Seas Fleet was scuttled by the Germans, and the Middle East was partitioned, though Britain quickly reverted to its favoured method of informal empire after the peace treaty. Perhaps most importantly, however, Britain failed to preserve a balance of power on the continent. The war saw the destruction of the Austrian Empire, whilst the Russians turned insular. That left just France and Germany, and out of these, Germany was always going to be the most powerful once its strength recovered. One interesting theme in all of these is that war aims didn't necessarily get more harsh as the war went on. The September programme was about as harsh a piece as anything Germany would have come up with in 1918. What's more striking is the increasing intransigence of all belligerents to avoid coming to a settlement. As all policymakers failed to find a compromise to the crisis of 1914, so they failed to find one that could have brought the war to a close.
Wow, that was fantastic. That video by Old Britannia was fantastic. I liked it. If you liked that video, check it out in the description below, and check Old Britannia. Yeah, I just ended the video. Wow, that was a great video. Old Britannia. This is the first time I've reacted to their channel, but still, I loved it. I loved it. And part 2 might come up not tomorrow or not the next video. Maybe I don't know. Maybe after a new video that I'm going to post, because I'm going to post, maybe the next video might actually be about World War I in Africa, because it's been a while since we talked about World War I in Africa. And the last time I mentioned I'm going to react to a video that is about World War I. What was World War I be in Africa? And that was like maybe 3 or 4 months ago, or maybe 2. But it's been a while. So I'll try to come back and react to a video, because I still have that video in my watch later, and I would probably download that, because so that if we ran out of electricity again, I could have just still play it, because it's saved. So yeah, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe for more videos like this. And I'm very sorry, I'm kind of rusty because it's been a while since I've made a video, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.